Hello, this is Sunil Sundaraj with NJVarsity.rivals.com. I'm happy to welcome in today Coach Benjie Wimberly, also the Assemblyman for the 35th Legislative District in New Jersey, and Director of Recreation for the City of Paterson. Coach Wimberly, thank you so much for taking some time out to speak with me today.
No, thanks for having me. This is really great.
Hey, congratulations, Coach Wimberly, said on your success, in high school football here in Northern New Jersey. Recently, said the latest news to break that you've joined, the St. Joseph, High School Regional Montvale, Green Knights football staff. I wanted to ask you just, joining, said such a prestigious, program that has had, a winning tradition over the years and, joining head coach Dan Marenghi's staff.
This is great. It's a great opportunity. Coaching at St. Joe's is, one of the highest levels you can be, not in the state of New Jersey, but in the United States. I think the conference is regarded as like the SEC of high school football.
Yeah. What does this mean? I mean, said knowing that the schools that St. Joe's will be facing here, of course, in the non-public group 4, with the likes of Bergen Catholic, Don Bosco. I mean, DePaul Catholic, St. Peter's Prep. I mean, the list goes on, Coach Wimberly. But just to know that you're going to be on those sidelines, said this fall. I mean, say even before that. But just can you talk about that?
Well, like you said, there's no weeks off. I mean, the 2 independent games that we'll be playing will be Good Counsel of Maryland and St. Francis of Baltimore. And as you know, these are teams that are nationally ranked or regionally ranked every year. So there's literally not a week off in the schedule. And, this is exciting for me. You get up, maybe for a rivalry game, every other week or something. Here with this schedule, you don't get a day off. You don't get a week off. It's, quick, move on and let's go. And then you got to get to that, that 3-game, playoff series to win the championship, which I think is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, no, that's true. Just talk about that aspect, Coach Wimberly, that, with football, I mean, it's 24/7, 365. I mean, vast players, I said even other coaches that, once the season ends, you're right back into that mode, preparing for that upcoming season. Can you just talk about that grind and just, said the preparation, the detail that goes into that?
Yeah, I mean, the kids really have, there's a 12-month schedule. So even when you're off, it's a dead period. Kids are still getting in speed and agility. Many of the kids nowadays are one-sport athletes. I'm not a big proponent of that. I think I'm a big guy that I like them to be competitive in another sport, be it, basketball, track and field, baseball, whatever it may be, just to break the monotony of just being around, one group of people. But the workouts and the specialization when it comes to speed and strength and stuff like this, it's a 12-month program. And when you're in an elite program, like the Catholic schools and some of the bigger public schools that are, really perennial powers, there's no days off.
Yeah. And can you just, in terms of coaching, how it's evolved over the years, can you just talk about that? I said, when the technology, of course, it's changed as well. I mean, what you have at your disposal now compared to, of course, back in the day, light years ahead now.
Yeah, when I first started coaching, we were doing reel to reel, we were going, to the same place that did NFL films right here in Paterson and pick up the reels on, a Sunday, you sit down and you literally had a pencil sometimes to rewind, plays and stuff. Now you could just pick up your phone, your tablet, your laptop, and you could do a breakdown, everything. I remember sitting in the stands as a, freshman in a sub-varsity coach scouting teams, back then in NJIAA, and looking for tendencies. Now you just kind of pick up everything on the computer. So there's a great advantage here. But I always say you still have to play the game. So I don't care how many statistics, how many, things that you say that's going to go left or right, or how many percentages, you still have to make plays and you have to play the game.
That's right. I mean, it turns also with, dealing with the players, talk about, it's amazing, like when I speak with them, the application like Huddle and some of these other highlight video packages. I mean, that, it's not in terms of when they're, still in high school, but then even as far as colleges are concerned, that, colleges, in a flash can, really get, as said, a perspective of an athlete, as said, can you just talk about that as well, Coach Wimberly?
Yeah, I mean, they have a great advantage when it comes to recruiting now. I mean, it's unfortunate the COVID situation where there's been a major dead period, but huddle and emails. I mean, me and a lot of the older guys, I mean, I would sit around for hours and do VHS tapes and, like I said, reel tapes. And then I would have to go to the post office and package and mail. And then, we're talking on landlines, recruiting kids and stuff. It was a different thing. Now they basically could do their own huddle. I mean, we could edit them and, make recommendations, and we could hit a button and send it out to, 117 Division I schools and all the FCS schools in Division II. So there is a major advantage with technology now when it comes to recruiting.
No, definitely. I mean, it's just amazing, the growth of high school football here in New Jersey. I was jotting down, like, some of my questions and notes earlier this morning, thinking of, California, Texas, Florida. New Jersey has come a long way. I mean, to see that, the talent, like, it said, they, once they move into college, even the NFL. Can you talk about, and then, with even the sectional playoff games, and now that the regionals being played at MetLife, and, last 2 years ago, I was at SHI Stadium, on the campus of Rutgers University. Coach Wimberly, can you just, I mean, it just is fantastic just to see that.
I think New Jersey has proven that we've matched up well with everybody. So if you look at our record, when New Jersey has played out-of-state games, we've done an outstanding job. I mean, on a national level, obviously Don Bosco had a great run under Coach Toll with 2 mythical national championship teams. And my oldest son was on one of those teams. I saw them play teams from Florida and Ohio, and there was no comparison. We were pretty strong heads or tail. And as it goes, you look down, this year Bergen will probably be ranked in the top 10 with the amount of Division I players that they have. And obviously St. Joe's has been right at the top of that with Peters and some of the other schools. So, and then the talent, if you look at, the rosters of these Penn States and Michigans and now Ole Miss, you see Jersey kids on here making it, and everybody in the NFL, like we pretty much match up pretty well. I think we're right in that top 4 or 5 when it comes to talent and basically, I think the quality of football. I think the difference has been is that many of the southern states have spring football. So, that gives them somewhat of an advantage. I think the facilities gives some of the Texas and Florida's and them somewhat of an advantage. We haven't reached those heights yet of having stadiums magnitude, or some of us have nice weight rooms. But when you look at Texas, when you look at California, Florida, there's a different type of investment they've made in high school football. And the crazier part is it's a lot of them are public schools. But the difference is, I tell people, is they are regional schools. So when you go down to Georgia and you play for Grayson, these are regional schools. It's almost as if Hackensack, Teaneck, and Englewood all combined, then they would be powerful enough to play some of these teams. Or say County Tech, which is a regional high school, to be able to play at that level.
Talking about national spotlight, it's great, that many of these games are televised as well at ESPN, FS1, just to, again, highlight those schools. I mean, I think that that's so critical, not to downplay, of course, the local coverage as well, but once you get on that national level and you see these, major networks coming in and broadcasting the games, it just really, it puts, New Jersey, said definitely on the map. I want, we talked about COVID, just, switching gears, Coach Wimberly, how difficult it was for you in the 2020 season. And, I said, finishing up there at Hackensack High School, you had a great run there, Coach, and didn't want to forget that you were named the Lou Rotino, said Coach of the Year. Just congrats on that. Just, can you talk about your time there at Hackensack High School and what you were able to, again, do there?
Yeah, it was a difficult year. I mean, the small things that people took for granted really came to light. And as you know, I was one of the major advocates, working with the governor to, have high school football this year, along with the Coaches Association, the NJSIAA, Paul Sarlo, the senator from Bergen County. And the main thing that I saw the difference is that you take things for granted. weightlifting, many of the kids who did not come from fortunate situations, they're not able to go to a personal trainer or go somewhere and get somebody come to their house and train them.
Yeah.
So, what we lacked in strength, and then also dealing with dietary issues. These kids weren't getting that free breakfast and free lunch. And, it was just a major difference. Yeah. And not being able to use a locker room. We were getting dressed outside, on the field. Yeah. And, some of the stipulations when it came to preparing, I think they were much needed when working in pods and things of that nature. I mean, it just was a eye-awakening experience. I mean, we didn't watch film together other than Zoom or, Google Classroom and things like that. These are the things that you kind of took for granted, that didn't happen. But at the end of the day, we were able to get 6 games in, enough tape for some of these kids to, move on to play college football, and for some of the younger kids to get on the radar, to get recruited for the future.
That's right. I mean, it really put life into perspective. I mean, because you didn't know week to week if you were going to be playing a game or not. And then, it said if another program, said went into COVID protocol, that, it said it really was just, it was crazy. It was just all over the place.
Yeah, you didn't know. And we ended our season with, a COVID situation, and end up shutting down for the rest of the year. We had a 2-week break of, we don't know why still, but we were shut down for 2 weeks for COVID. It wasn't even protocol. They just decided that we weren't going to play for 2 weeks. Yeah. And then you don't practice for 2 weeks, and then you come back and play a game. It was absolutely crazy. And I've worked in, situations that have been adverse, being, starting off at Eastside High School as an assistant coach and being at Paterson Catholic for many years, where I thought things were tough. But this year was really the most challenging coaching situation I've ever been in.
No, I definitely agree. And I commend, of course, I mean, the coaches, I mean, especially yourself, and then the players, it was, again, we talked before we came on there, to interview some of these players, said what they had to endure in the 2020 season, they were going to have a season to begin with, but, being able to overcome those obstacles and, go through the season, and then, be able to highlight their, said 4 years at Hackensack High School, just to see the level of talent. When you talk about, the parochials, non-publics, or private schools, but the public schools, the talent level of Coach Wimberly is just as, as good as, again, the privates.
Well, that's, I've been on both sides. So, I've been it's an advantage when you're at a private school. You kind of get kids when you're winning, they want to be part of the program. Yeah. And, with the public schools, it's more of a tradition thing, and that's something that, that the community has to preach. So strong public schools are going to have strong Little League programs. They're going to have a strong administration. They're going to have a tradition that's going to keep them together and work hard, where the Catholic schools have been taking it to a whole new level. And I've been there, like I said, at Paterson Catholic, we had the best of the best. We had a bunch of Power 5 kids and kids that were nationally ranked and recruited. And you had the same thing in public schools throughout, the history of New Jersey over the last 30 years, where, Hackensack at one point, Coach told again, 5 state championships, a bunch of guys in major schools. But now, unfortunately, those Little League teams have been just like I talked about the regional. You have these super Little League teams. So if you have the Brick City Lions and the Silk City Cardinals and different things like that, these kids are now being recruited in the 5th and 6th grade. Yeah. So the mindset and the mentality of getting notoriety and stuff like that, I think attracts them to go to some of the private schools, because you're going to get a chance to play on ESPN3. You're going to get a chance to travel to Florida or Ohio. So it's a great opportunity, and it's, it's something that, if it fits your child and it's the best situation, then, you should give your child that opportunity.
That's right. I mean, I always talk with coaches, on the public side, is that pipeline, said, when they start younger playing Pee Wee football, and said moving up, to middle school through, high school, playing on the freshman, said team, and then eventually making it to varsity, said, do you still see that there's that room, there's that growth, for players to still, succeed in that, in that avenue, Coach?
You have some programs like Ridgewood High School where, the kids are born, running a wing T in pre-K, so, Chuck has done a great job of, keeping his kids together and getting a mindset. And then I see young coaches like James Magazine at Eastside High School. He's created a culture you know, at Eastside where kids want to come and be part of it, you know,
Yeah.
and it can be done. So, you know, is it difficult? It is difficult. I mean, if you have a very talented kid, he is going to get, you know, become attracted to some of the parochials because of those opportunities. And you have kids in this class who hasn't even played it down yet, getting offered to, you know, major colleges, and that becomes an attraction for parents. I mean, in particularly, if you have some financial challenges, getting a college scholarship these days is like getting a jackpot. So if you get a scholarship to Rutgers or Michigan or Ole Miss or any of these schools, it's like a $200,000 jackpot. You know, a lot of these kids do not have trust funds to go to college, and that's the thought of the parents. Like, this is my opportunity to get my kids somewhere, an opportunity to play and get a college education.
Yeah, exactly. As you said, it's just not about, you know, being the athlete, but also said getting that education, that degree. I wanted to, I asked you before. I just want, you know, just you wanted to comment. Just the New York Giants, you know, honoring you. It said I think the 2020 Lou Rotino, you know, Coach of the Year. What that meant to you personally? Just, you know, again, a tremendous honor, you know, Coach.
Yeah, I mean, it was really surprising. For one, I had a difficult season at Hackensack, and you know, Victor Cruz, obviously one of my former players, reached out to me about it, and I'm like, Vic, you got to be serious. Like, we were not that great this year, and you know, after we talked, you know, he said, Coach, this is not about wins and losses. You've won plenty of championships, you've done all that stuff, but this is about your activity in your community in the state of New Jersey when it came to social justice issues this past year with, you know, George Floyd situation. And he said, look, you're not too many guys are out here feeding people, you know, and, you know, working with people during COVID. And that's the reason why he nominated me. He said, look, you're a good coach, but he thought, you know, my work outside of coaching, you know, made me worthy of this. And Lou Rotino is, you know, like, that's, you know, one of the most, I don't know if I could top that as a high school coach of being honored after somebody by like Lou Rotino. I mean, everyone I've spoken to has nothing but great things to say about Lou Rotino. And you know, after we talked and after it was presented, you know, it's a great field to be acknowledged.
Yeah. You mentioned, it said what you were able to do at Paterson Catholic High School. I mean, that was just an incredible run you had there, winning your 7 state championships, Coach. I mean, I think I don't know if the numbers are correct. You know, I said over 100 wins over I think the last 11 years. But what you were able to do there, and can you just, and then of course, you know, I said Victor Cruz, you know, said you know, played there under you. I mean, just what you were able to do there, and making also that transition, you know, going from Paterson Catholic to Hackensack. I had to ask you that as well, Coach.
Yeah. Well, Paterson Catholic wasn't easy. I mean, when I arrived in 1995, in the school's history, they had never made the state playoffs. And I remember, you know, they always had talented players, would have individuals who were, you know, going on like Stanley Jackson and some other guys who really had success there. But when we got there, I think we built a family and a tradition. So, you know, it took us a couple of years, but, you know, we got into the playoffs. I think, you know, year 3, and then we made the playoffs every year for, you know, 13 years or whatever it may be in a row, won 7 state championships, 8 league championships, probably had over 100 kids go on and play, you know, college football. And we've had 3 of those players playing the NFL with Victor Cruz, TJ Clemens, and Akudema Hamid, who actually started off with me at Paterson Catholic and, you know, finished at Don Bosco. But on top of that, we had kids go to Notre Dame, Boston College. I think we had 6 or 7 kids go to Rutgers. And more importantly, we had a bunch of kids graduate college and now come back and be really productive citizens, from lawyers to educators to business owners. So that's probably the most gratifying thing. And then we were in adverse conditions. At Paterson Catholic, we probably had the worst high school football field in the state of New Jersey, which was known as the Swamp. And we had not great weight room and so attracting people to come to Paterson Catholic was really a challenge. But I had a great staff. And, you know, by the end, when we won 3 state championships in a row, we had kids from as far as New York, Bergen County, to Essex County, to Paterson. So we had created a atmosphere and a culture that people wanted to be part of, and they looked past all of the facilities and stuff. So that was a great accomplishment. Now going to Hackensack, you know, I took 2 years off in between when I got involved in politics. and going to Hackensack was totally different. Here's a place that had great facilities, great weight room, different type thing. But, the difference probably was the kids were so hungry at Paterson Catholic to get out of their circumstance that they did everything above and beyond when it came to it. Where the Hackensack kids were some really great kids and good kids, but, it was just a different, mentality when it came to, this is my lifeline. This is how I'm going to get out of my circumstance. But Hackensack was a good experience for the 9 years there. 3 of my sons have graduated from Hackensack Common, so we'll be part of the Common family for life. And those guys had a good academic and social experience there. And now Jaden, my youngest, is with me, going to St. Joe's, but, no regrets. It was just really a good experience. And like I said, for the family, it's been nothing but football for the last 30 years or so.
Yeah, that's what I was going. My next question was going to be, what makes high school football coaching so special to me? I think one of the numbers stood out. You rank, I think, 17th among active coaches. I think here with 171 victories. I mean, more than the victories, but just what it is about the game. Said that again. You just enjoy so much.
I love, my full-time job is I'm the director of recreation for the city of Paterson.
Yeah.
And I believe we're probably, if not the biggest recreation department or second or third in the state of New Jersey. This is what I do for a living. And before that, I was a teacher for 9 years at Eastside High School. It's a labor of love. I wake up and enjoy my day. It's a challenge, working with kids. There's never been a dull moment during these 32 years of working in education and recreation. But I mean, our family lives for it. My wife is absolutely the best. I mean, we have 4 sons and, my wife, and we all know that, she is the backbone when it comes to the academic stuff and cheering us on. And we look forward just to going to games. And, the 2 years that I didn't coach, I was sitting in the parking lot at practice, waiting for my son watching, or I was at Little League on the sideline, cheering him on, taping his ankles and stuff like that. So it's become a fabric of who we are, and as a family, my oldest son has gotten involved in doing camps and combines with Zone 6 football. I mean, he grew up on this. My son was born the year I got the job at Hackensack. So he actually learned how to ride a bike and walk and do his homework on the field. And now, he has a master's degree and later, and he's running and doing kind of the same things I was doing, just giving kids opportunities and giving them exposure to have a better life. And my wife is all on board with that. I mean, she's been a tutor for me. She's helped kids who didn't even play for me when it comes to academics and writing and stuff. So, it's who we are. We just love the game and particularly high school football.
That's outside. So I was giving you my last question. What family has the support you received. You've answered that one for Coach Wimberly. I didn't want to forget 2 other roles before I get on to the most important role you hold here in the state is that you were part of a group that founded the New Jersey Coaches Minority Association and also an executive member of the New Jersey Interscholastic Athletic Association. If you can talk about those 2 roles, but more importantly, especially I think, again, within the New Jersey Coaches Minority Association, Coach.
I mean, that's been great. We started in October of 2020. Myself with Marion Bell, the former coach, he just moved from Westside High School. Darnell Grant at West Orange, Rick Purcell, who's down in South Jersey. We have Tyreek Holman, who's at JFK Island, and Marty Johnson, who's retired from Willenboro. And we got together with some, thoughts and ideas, but the main focus really came around Coach Bell was hosting Zoom meetings during COVID and talking about recruiting and how we could get kids more exposure. And he did it. I mean, I think last year, Coach Bell had 2 Power 5 kids who were highly ranked or at Rutgers and early enrolled in Rutgers. And it shows that you could be from a small public school in an urban setting and be successful. And we wanted to make sure that recruiters came to the West Oranges and the East Sides and the Kennedys and the different places to see the talent, because sometimes they're overlooked. It's not that easy, and it is different. And I've been on both sides of the ball. Catholic school kids are going to get a lot more exposure and a lot more opportunities, but we decided that, we had coaches come on, talk to them and do things. But more importantly, I think all of us had a focus of how can we recruit more minority Black men and men of color to get involved in education. Statistics were alarming that only 2% nationwide are African-American male teachers. That's pretty disturbing.
Yeah.
The question was asked, most kids will never have a Black male teacher throughout their whole high school career, grammar school career, pre-K. It's just, they don't have it. And when it comes to coaching in New Jersey, I think the number was out of the 300 something head coaches, only 35 were African-American men. Yeah. And more importantly, assistant coaches, coordinators, things of that nature. And unfortunately, it moves on. When you go to the college level, those numbers are dismal. When you go to the NFL, the Rooney Rule, same thing. The numbers are not there. The stability is not there. So we want to make sure that these young coaches coming up behind us will know how to do a job interview, will have their resume properly prepared. They will have the experience of being a special team coordinator, offensive coordinator, defense coordinator. So when they move on and have an opportunity to get a job, they can say, oh, they don't have experience. Well, we want to be there for them and we want to guide them. And that's been the major part of it. I mean, and it's been very gratifying.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, we could just talk about also being the executive member of the New Jersey.
Well, on NJSIAA, it's important. I mean, in particularly, I serve in my capacity as an assemblyman. Like I said, last summer, I think it was important to be part of that. I mean, Colleen McGuire has worked with us as far as, the safety and return of, the COVID protocols. It's good to be on there, I think, as a coach and a father, so I've been on both ends, as a father and a coach and a teacher, as a profession, to make sure that some of the laws that impact high school sports, not just football, but sports across the board, are relative and are fair across the board. The one thing that I will say is that the NJSIAA has looked to create a committee that is going to deal with diversity and inclusion. And that's very important. Many times when these decisions are being made for all-star games or Hall of Fames or, division schedules, there are no people of color at the table to, have their input. So I want to encourage these guys not only to be coaches, but to get involved in the New Jersey Football Coaches Association, the NJSIAA, to get involved in, the North-South game, whatever it's going on. And then if you aspire to be a high school coach, you have an opportunity maybe to be a volunteer to move on. So, you want to be a big time coach in the Big Five with Bosco, Joes and them, look for those opportunities to go out there and, coach and hopefully we can open some doors for these guys.
No, well said. I just have a couple more. I can't thank you enough for the time, Coach Wimberly. So I didn't want to leave out, of course, you're the Assemblyman for the 35th, legislative district in New Jersey. I mean, representing, I think, 6 towns in Bergen and Passaic County. I mean, you're juggling so many tasks. It's so commendable. I mean, just can you just talk about that, what that means to you, Coach Wimberly?
Well, it's important. I mean, my position as an assemblyman, I think I bring a different perspective than, a lot of lawyers are usually involved or union people are involved. And I think I bring, the day-to-day of being a dad, a husband, growing up in an urban city, living in an urban city, but I represent 9 million people. So I make it always clear, we don't just represent our district. The laws and stuff that we do, I sit on a budget committee, which oversees almost close to a $40 billion budget, So that aspect of having somebody who has been growing up in public housing, went to college and struggled, like many people, to pay tuition and loans and all that stuff, to come back and teach at Eastside High School and coach and raise 4 young Black men in the community. I have a perspective that is, I think, much needed to represent the 9 million residents of New Jersey. And it's gratifying because when I could, pick up the phone and call the governor and have a conversation with him about concerns that maybe the coaches have, or maybe concerns that the educators have, that line is open for me. And, to be, one of 80, assembly persons and, 40 senators making the laws in New Jersey, it's beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, my goal really, I wanted to be a high school coach. I grew up and went to college, and I thought, the highlight of my career was being a high school coach. When getting involved in politics came, I mean, it was unplanned, but you know what? I think it was meant to be.
That's great. It's something that stood out here, Coach Wimberly, is that when you were elected to the Paterson City Council, and I thought this was so neat that you had several, I think it said here, several former students that volunteered for your campaign. I mean, just talk about the younger, kids, getting involved, said here, I mean, I'm sure that was just, that was a special, time and, moment for you to see that.
Yeah, I mean, when I ran for city council, it was kind of unexpected. I always kind of avoided, people reached out to me, would you be interested? And it was always, I'm a coach, I'm an educator, I love recreation, I want nothing to do with politics.
Yeah.
I got involved in, my former players, my former students were involved. I had, kids from Eastside, from Paterson Catholic, from Kennedy, the coaches. I mean, they were unbelievable. The community people came out and they really drove my election. I mean, our motto was hope is here. We wanted to instill hope in our community, meaning the city of Paterson, and for our kids and our young people and residents overall to choose hope over despair. And obviously we took a lot of the Obama tactics of, when it came to, campaigning and getting out here and doing untraditional things, and it worked. I mean, we still, I think, have the record for the most votes ever in a city council at large race in the history of the city of Paterson. But I owe it to, my career. My campaign manager was one of my former recreation workers, who at the time was, I believe, 24 years old, and he's now a county commissioner, TJ Best. One of my other key campaign persons was Dr. Chris Irvin, who is now the superintendent of schools of Teaneck. So these are all guys who I kind of mentored, and they worked for me through recreation. And my coaches, like my former, I was the former baseball coach at Eastside High School. Those guys came out, a lot of people say your connection to the Latino community is like, well, I coached those guys and I taught for 9 years that area. So they came out in great numbers. And then the football guys, you can forget it. Everybody from Victor Cruz to guys who didn't play for me, Mike Adams, Tim Thomas, Essence Carson, they all came out and lent a hand in my campaign and played an active role of supporting and endorsing me, which is really great. And these are guys, some who I never coached before, but they believed in me and they knew that, my message was clear that we have to have kids who will choose hope over despair.
That's wonderful. Final question for you, Coach Wimberly, is, what your message would be, for younger people who want to get into the coaching profession, with high school football, they're trying to move up the ladder, they said, you talked about it earlier. I mean, said what you had to face, said, getting into this field, but just, what would your advice be to them?
If you consider a career in education, it is so gratifying. I would never change my choice of going into education. My 9 years of being a classroom teacher at Eastside High School, where, and I came after Joe Clark when, the Lean On Me craze, it was absolutely the best. I mean, I had mentors like Barry Rosser, a guy named Charles Lighty, who was the principal, Donald Davis, who is still coaching at Kennedy High School. These guys mentored me. Albert Harris, who was the athletic director, Henry Baker. I had a life lesson every day when I walked into that building. But more importantly, we molded the lives of so many young people, and not just athletes, not just males, but males and females, not just African-Americans, but Latino, Middle Eastern, the white students that were involved that we coach and stuff like that. It's just life-changing when you have somebody in your corner that not only is there, not for a paycheck, but they genuinely care about you. And kids know when they care about you. That's something that's important, that they know and they can sense you out. Like if you're genuine, they know, but if you're not sincere and you're a phony and you're about yourself, they'll call you out at no time at all. And I think that's the one quality that, I want to encourage, for more African-American males, please consider a career in education. Please come out and coach. This opportunity to coach at St. Joe's, I'm excited, because I know I'm getting ready to make some bonds and relationships with some of these players that are going to be lifelong, not for 4 years, not for 3 years. And some people ask, are you coaching just because your son is there for a year? I'm not retiring anytime soon. That's not the case. Maybe from a regular job, but I don't think I will ever retire from coaching. I want to be on the sideline in some capacity, helping out, a different level. Maybe my time as a head coach that may have, wind down, but my ego is checked. I'm looking forward to working with Danny and the St. Joe's guys and learning the staff that he has. And this is all stuff that I want to be able to relay to another guy to say, look, I'm here. You could do this too. You know what? you know what, business is a great career, but try education, look into it, think about it. You know, coaching is a great, gratifying career that, like I said, after 32 years, no regrets at all.
Okay, Coach, the floor is yours. I hope I didn't leave anything out. I hope I asked all the right questions. If there's anything I left out, if you want to, say something, I said, more than
No,
welcome.
I would tell you this. I personally would like to just thank all of the families that let me coach and teach their kids. I mean,
Yeah.
that, as I look back and as we're talking right now, that's been a reward. I mean, that's the bottom line. And to have an opportunity for my family to grow up in this and grow up in the football, like I said, to have my oldest son now have his own football business and recruiting business to help kids in athletics, that is reward enough. I don't know what my political career brings, but as far as coaching is concerned, if this is it, I'm okay with it. And like I said, if I can inspire a couple of more young people to get involved in education, and if there's anything I can do to help them, I'm there to help. And like I said, with this opportunity to come to St. Joe's, I think it's another calling by God to say, look, you're going to be placed somewhere else to help some other person that may not have been able to have that relationship with you. So I'm just excited and looking forward to it, but I don't plan on retiring anytime soon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you on the sidelines, said this upcoming fall. Coach Wimberly, again, it's been a true honor and privilege, speaking with you. Thank you for the opportunity, to interview, for NJVarsity.rivals.com. And, again, wishing you, continued success.
Thanks for having me, Sunil. I appreciate it. And thanks for all you do.